When the railways began to spread more than 200 years ago, their impact on architecture was nothing short of revolutionary. To serve these marvellous machines, whole new kinds of buildings sprang up. From the outlandishly ornate,
The things you find on buildings.
to hidden gems
I never thought I'd get to see this.
and railway wonders of the world.
Now, this is what I call extreme train spotting.
Now, with privileged access
We are swinging.
Oh, my goodness.
and rarely seen designs,
Oh, this is the famous watercolour.
I want to show you how each and every one of these remarkable structures tells the story of how the railways have changed the way we live
You're standing in the middle of history.
forever. Today, I explore the Yorkshire birthplace of Britain's locomotives and live out a boyhood dream.
May I come aboard, fireman? Certainly.
We delve into a West Yorkshire town which has been on a railway map since 1844, attracting some illustrious historical guests.
It's estimated that 60,000 people were brought to Halifax just to come and see the visit of the Prince of Wales.
And at the National Railway Museum, we'll be dishing up the facts about dining on the move.
You might have had splendid wooden tables, maybe of mahogany.
It's a really grand sort of dining space, like a Georgian country mansion for the first-class passengers.
Join me as I explore the architecture the railways built. When the first steam-hauled, timetabled passenger train arrived in 1825, it changed Britain forever. But to really understand this ingenious evolution of engineering brilliance, we need to track the legend back even further. Right back to its infancy. And that journey of discovery brings me to Yorkshire and the great city of Leeds. More than 30 million passengers get on and off at the city's mainline station every year. But I wonder how many of them know just how important this city is to the history of the railways across the world.
Arriving at this railway station with its mishmash of architectural styles, you might be forgiven for thinking that this is why I'm here. But I haven't even got time to stop today, because this city's rich railway history is much more far-reaching than one passenger railway station alone.
Just a half-mile south of the station is a place of huge significance to the entire railway industry. This is the birthplace of commercial locomotive manufacturing. Sure, it's a media hub and a lovely pub garden nowadays. But John McGoldrick from the Leeds Industrial Museum is going to show me where the magic began.
Well, thank you so much for bringing me along to a pub today, John, but I've got a funny feeling it wasn't always that, was it?
No, Tim, this was the Round Foundry, which was at the very epicentre of Leeds manufacturing industry.
One of the early buildings here was a grand three-storey rotunda, which sadly burnt down in 1873. But the glorious details of its origins are still very much on show here. Tall arched windows and chimney stacks. Late 18th century iron and brickwork. Even this wonderful steel and stone inscription marking the rotunda's footprint.
So how significant was the Round Foundry?
The Round Foundry was the first of its kind, and it's the location of the building of the world's first commercially successful locomotive, Salamanca, in 1812.
And I never knew that.
It was the first place that pulled together all those different processes that would previously have been carried out in small workshops by different people. So it really is the first in the world, the first railway works on the planet.
Salamanca was the first commercially successful steam locomotive. A great example of British ingenuity that transformed the movement of freight by rail.
So would any of these buildings been the ones that actually Salamanca was built in?
All these buildings surrounding us would have been contemporary with the building of that locomotive and its sisters. So behind you, we've got the green sand foundry, and that's where some of the larger castings would have been made. Things like locomotive frames, axles and wheels. Behind me was the dry sand foundry, which would have been used probably for smaller components. And they also had a brass foundry on site as well. So it was all very much integrated.
It's an incredible feeling being in such a significant place in railway history. Like many great inventions, Salamanca was born from necessity. Local industry, like the collieries, had been completely reliant on horse-drawn wagons to bring their coal up from the pits and into town to sell. But suddenly, the cost of horsepower rocketed, and a new iron horse was required.
The problem was, we're at the time of the Napoleonic Wars, and there was such a huge demand on horses brought by the military. The cost of horses and feedstuffs to fuel the horses had gone through the roof. So it became really pressing that they came up with a technological solution to get over this haulage issue they had.
That's incredible. I never really thought about that. The fact that iron horses didn't just replace them to make them more efficient, but because they couldn't get enough horses.
Absolutely, it's that simple. You know, it's very much replaced one form of traction with a non-living form of traction, as it were.
So how does the first commercially successful steam engine in the whole wide world get built in Leeds?
The head engineer of the Middleton colliery, John Blenkinsop, had seen other examples of railway locomotives being developed in different parts of the country. The problem with some of these early iterations was that they broke the track that they were running on. The locomotives were either too heavy or the track was too fragile.
From the Middleton colliery, just 3 miles south of Leeds, Blenkinsop had spotted the germ of an idea in these previous failed attempts. He called in a pioneering engineer of the time with a reputation for ingenuity, a man called Matthew Murray.
This guy had demonstrated that he could think outside the box, he could work flexibly, he'd come up with quite outlandish solutions that showed that he had the potential to sort of develop something that could work on railways.
A little like Elon Musk or Brunel of the day, maybe.
Absolutely. Not sort of put off at all by challenges. Obviously, have a very creative mindset. Some of the technology had already been pioneered by other inventors. So he was kind of standing on the shoulders of other inventors in some senses. He wasn't shy about kind of reinventing what people were doing.
After years of experimentation, he'd cracked it. From this foundry, Salamanca emerged. It was the first ever locomotive to use 2 cylinders, allowing it to pull a groundbreaking 20 times its own weight.
This was a whole game changer. The engine they actually developed was a 5-ton engine. It only had 4 horsepower, so it wasn't massively powerful, but it was still capable of pulling 50 or so wagons of coal at a time, so it was way more than had previously been possible.
As the birthplace of this world first in industrial design, these buildings truly are hallowed railway ground. Engineer Matthew Murray's work here would not only go on to revolutionise how the railways were used, but also gave birth to a world-beating locomotive building industry centred here in Leeds. And that industry massively expanded the Hunslet district of the city.
Well, John, these look like just tracks off to nowhere now, but where do they once run off to?
Well, these were one of the many service tracks that ran in and out of the locomotive building works that all sprang up in the Hunslet district of Leeds.
And look at this. Evidence wherever you turn of the big players from the area's loco building heyday. The success of Matthew Murray's Round Foundry brought a stream of other loco builders here to Hunslet, creating a proto-Silicon Valley for the railways. Nearly 19,000 locomotives were produced from just this one district.
This is the former offices of the Hunslet Engine Company, and they were the longest lasting of all the Leeds locomotive building companies.
It's a lovely thing. I mean, these buildings look like they were kind of big, solid, Victorian commercial constructions that were meant to last, right?
They were, and they were reflective of the status of the companies. You know, they wanted to project who they were, and certainly the Hunslet Engine Company were a major player in British industry, so you know they had to have a premises like fitting the company.
So this little company from these offices, and I assume kind of lots of works behind it as well, are actually servicing huge parts of the world.
Today, there's not much left from the early era, just a couple of old office buildings. This one has a rather grand entranceway. Flat brick-arched windows and decorative stone roof finials. But take a look at these beautiful original architect's drawings and you can see the vast scale of the area once occupied by just one of the works, the Hunslet Engine Company. During its 100-year history, it alone exported more than 2,000 locomotives far and wide from this little corner of Leeds.
You can see the Made in Leeds badge all over the world. The Leeds locomotive builders exported to all corners of the globe.
So I used to volunteer for a museum in Sierra Leone, and we had engines built there from Hudswell Clark of Leeds, and actually Hunslet as well.
Yeah, they were very active in Sierra Leone.
In fact, in 2013, I had the privilege of going to Sierra Leone myself. There, in their incredible collection, I saw Leeds-built locomotives, which had not only survived 4 decades in an abandoned warehouse, but also civil war.
So when did they finally stop building steam engines here at Hunslet?
It was surprisingly late. It was 1971, and Hunslet exported their last steam locomotive to the Republic of Indonesia, formerly Java. Ironically, the first locomotive they exported was also to Java, so things come full circle.
Indeed they do. And on our round trip, we're now heading back to the very beginnings of successful locomotive travel. Just outside the city is the longest continuously running railway in the world, the Middleton Railway. Trains have run on part of this route for over 250 years. This is the line the world's first commercially successful steam loco, Salamanca, was designed and built to haul coal on. Now it's run as a heritage line, hauling passengers rather than freight.
It's a lovely railway.
It is.
Ian Smith is the vice president of this record-breaking railway.
Ian, when did you first get involved in the Middleton Railway?
When I was a very young child, 1960. Just before it officially opened, the railway acquired an old tramcar. And when that came, they had to put the two halves together, which they did halfway up the railway. I used to go down to the bottom of the street where the railway was, and there was this big hulking guy who was working on the railway. And it turned out he was actually a lecturer from Leeds University, a guy called Fred Ewell.
In the 1960s, the planned route of the new M621 motorway crossed directly through the Middleton Railway, threatening to close it. Physics lecturer Dr. Fred Ewell saved it by taking stewardship of the railway. He reached an agreement to build a tunnel so the new road could be supported right across the top. Dr. Ewell ran both freight and passengers with a crew of volunteers, most of whom came directly from his classes.
The people who were running it were students, and they would run freight trains in between lectures. And that was how the railway ran for several years. And in fact, the first couple of years, they were doing 10,000 tons of freight per year, which was a pretty good thing for what you would call amateurs.
It's an extraordinary story.
Ian began volunteering here when he was just 15, and he's still here 50 years later. It's through the heroic efforts of this line's long history of volunteers that the railway can still be enjoyed today, maintaining its record-breaking status.
The line is clearly all still here. It's obviously had a renaissance in recent years, because I've read about this so many times. So, any chance of a look up it?
We can certainly can, but we can do one better than that. We have a steam engine in full steam. If you can get yourself your boiler suit on and your gloves, you can go on the footplate and have a ride on the footplate. How about that?
Keep me away.
You know me, I don't need to be asked twice. Just need to don my finest boiler suit and I'm ready to step up to the plate, where engineer Jack Auckland can put me to work.
May I come aboard, fireman?
Certainly. Welcome.
This loco, built in Leeds for industry, has been lovingly restored by the volunteers here.
Oh, it's warm in here. Right, so what happens first?
Take the handbrake off.
Take the handbrake, right, this.
About 6 turns.
6 turns. That feels about right, yeah?
I usually leave the vertical that side, and if you're going to fall off, you can grab it.
I'm hoping there won't be any need for emergency manoeuvres, but safely out of the shed, this beautiful old loco will need some more coal to get it up the line. Step forward, fireman Dunn.
You don't have to throw it, just tip it inside the door.
Right, OK.
That's right. You don't need a shovelful.
Right.
Just a few. Just tip.
Down there.
That's
Right. Right. Oh, it's like being a Titfield Thunderbolt. Right, here we go. Oh.
Yeah, well done. Lovely flames now. The vital things always. Pressure, water, fire.
All right, and we're off.
If I look a bit like the cat who got the cream, it's because I'm in my absolute element. Once a hard-working industrial railway, the mile-long route leading to the old colliery is now really rather beautiful.
So we're heading up here now through. It feels not very urban at all. This feels like a lovely rural environment.
Yeah, I think what you've got to realise is this was a colliery wasteland, as far as you could see both sides.
It hardly feels industrial now, right, on this lovely summer afternoon. It's quite magical, isn't it?
It certainly is, yeah.
It only takes a few minutes to cover the mile-long ride from the depot to the old colliery. But I could stay on here all day.
Thank you, chaps. Thank you very much. What a treat that is, on a very short piece of track, but a really important one, and a lovely ride. A former industrial area, now a bit of parkland and lovely views as well. A piece of Leeds history with a great team behind it. What a cracking day.
I have an access all areas backstage pass to the National Railway Museum in York. It's an Aladdin's cave, full to bursting with items that tell the story of our wonderful railway heritage.
This is one of the many gems that resides here in the warehouse area of the NRM.
It's a piece of architectural salvage, a bit of a building that's fallen or been changed and moved around. This is a handmade stained glass window from Wrexham Refreshment Rooms. And thank goodness it has been saved, because it is glorious, it's beautiful, and a reminder of a past age where we lavished time, money and care on passengers as they waited there for their trains with a cup of tea. And just look how grand so many refreshment rooms really once were. From these opulent station dining rooms to luxurious restaurant carriages, eating and travelling have always seemed to go hand in hand. But the concept of dining on the move had a bit of a shaky start. And someone who knows all about it is Chloe Shields, who is studying for a PhD with the museum. She's combining the studies of two things I love, railways and food.
Hello, Chloe.
Hello. Nice to see you.
I see you too.
She's pulled out some drawings which reveal how food on the railways has evolved. All signed by Isambard Kingdom Brunel.
What are these lovely drawings on the table about?
These are of Swindon Station and Swindon Refreshment Room. Swindon Refreshment Room was one of the oldest refreshment rooms in Britain. It was built in 1841 and it opened in 1842.
So this is obviously a general arrangement drawing of the station, because this has only got 4 tracks. One goes to a good shed there as well, so this is early on. But there's refreshment rooms here, very large things marked.
Yes, so there's refreshment rooms on either side, and the idea is that trains coming from either direction would be able to stop at the station.
By the time a traveller arrived in Swindon from London in 1842, they would have been travelling for 3 hours.
So if you didn't bring food with you, you would be very, very hungry by the end of your journey.
So who was building all these refreshment rooms and buffets and tea rooms on stations up and down the country?
I think it did really come from the railway companies. The Great Western Railway wanted to build Swindon Station, and that included 300 cottages and refreshment rooms and station buildings. They didn't have the money to build all of these lovely buildings, so instead they made a deal with the builders, who were a Mr. J&C Rigby, and the plan was that they would build these off their own back, and instead they would get all the rents from the cottages, and they would also get all the revenue from the refreshment rooms.
And that sounds like quite a smart move, you know, and early on, a small railway company trying to get its money together with the railway village. That seems quite a simple move.
Yeah, but then there was something that was maybe not the smartest thing to do, and they put in a special clause that most of the trains that ran through Swindon Station had to stop at the refreshment rooms for 10 minutes so that passengers could get off. They could spend all their money in the refreshment rooms and get back on again, so that the Rigby brothers would get more money.
So every single train from London to Bristol is now stopping at this railway station,
Yes,
just to go into this refreshment room.
every train would stop.
Is that unique to Swindon, or is that...
No, there were refreshment stops across the country, but they were not as frequent. They were more for necessity. They would stop in the middle of the journey. It could be 20 to 40 minutes, but Swindon were known for being the shortest at 10 minutes. They went and bought their food. They then had to sit and eat their food and then run back on the train. And there was a lot of talk about the anxiety of waiting for the bell to ring, and a lot of complaints about potentially suffering from indigestion from eating too fast.
It wasn't just the pace of eating the punters had to worry about.
The catering got a very bad reputation. They had a captive market. Anyone who stopped in, they had nowhere else to go to, which then meant that the quality wasn't potentially very good.
It was so bad, in fact, even Brunel, the railway's chief engineer, remarked that the coffee tasted like it was made from roasted corn.
So this is the general layout of Swindon Station, but what have we got here?
This is a lovely design of the layout of Swindon Refreshment Rooms. So you have the outside of the building here,
Yeah.
and then you have the kind of plans of the layout of the inside of the building.
Now this is exciting, actually, isn't it? Because this really shows you a proper delineation of class systems here. Look at this, you've got first class over there, second class there.
Yeah, so the spaces were quite interesting. The furniture in first class would have been upholstered in fine material. You might have had splendid wooden tables, maybe of mahogany. Whereas in second class, it would have been a lot more simplistic.
All these supporting columns I can see, or decorative columns perhaps, looking like it's a really grand sort of dining space, like a Georgian country mansion for the first class passengers. Well, as the 19th century drew to a close, we also see buffet cars, don't we, and restaurant cars starting to turn up.
Yes.
Did that change how people eat on the stations?
The first dining car was introduced in 1879. It was an invention of George Mortimer Pullman, who was an American inventor and entrepreneur. And he invented the first one in Chicago in 1868, and it was called the Delmonico after the famous restaurant in New York. And it took until 1879 for them to be introduced in Britain. It was on a run from Leeds to London on the Great Northern Railway, and it was an instant success. It changed railway catering. It was luxurious. People could sit and relax and eat a leisurely six-course meal, which was served to them by dining car attendants and conductors, cooked by cooks and cooking assistants, whilst they sat there and enjoyed their train journey.
Thus solving the problem of passenger indigestion.
Chloe, thank you so much for these little insights into facets of railway catering. It's really very fascinating. Perhaps should inspire us that actually there's another level to aspire to one day.
Yes, definitely toast to that.
150 miles north of Swindon's speedy refreshment rooms is another early pin on the railway map. Trains have been running to Halifax in West Yorkshire since the 1840s. And there's railway architecture in the town which takes us right back to the very beginning. Philip Hellawell from the Lancashire and Yorkshire Railway Society is familiar with even the most overlooked examples of that architecture, including this underpass. Neglected now, but with a long history behind it.
What I see here is typical railway stone architecture, huge big blocks with a flat arch and much smaller blocks forming the roof. And then further back, it's a brick arch, which tells me that that part of the line was built after this one.
These blocks and bricks reveal a bigger story too. This underpass is the product of a battle for economic supremacy in early Victorian Britain between the emerging force of railways and the established power of the canal network.
The canal companies in the 18th century were massively important. They were as important as any institution in the country, but it wasn't until 1828 that the Halifax branch of the canal was built. And although it was only 1¼ miles long, it actually cost £60,000, which was a huge sum of money at the time.
However, the timing of that substantial investment in a canal link to Halifax was quite unfortunate, because trouble was coming down the line. When the railway arrived in 1844, it was a major threat to the canal business. But this underpass reveals that in the competition against the canal owners, the railways couldn't strike an immediate knockout blow. The canal companies demanded that the new train tracks didn't prevent them from moving goods in or out of Halifax.
The canal companies were concerned about the loss of trade, and therefore they did ask the railway company to create this underpass. This was the main access to the canal wharfs from the town centre.
The underpass also provided a route to the Grand Halifax station. And what a splendid piece of architecture that station still is today. Its frontage, a bold statement of intent from early rail companies announcing that they're here to stay. While its elaborate detailed decoration points to both their wealth and taste.
The railway came to Halifax first in 1844, and the station was about 1/4 mile from here, further south, at a place called Shore Syke. But it was just a single line branch to there, and as business developed, they needed a bigger station, so they moved up here, It was completed in 1855, and it really reflects the grandeur and importance of Halifax as a town.
That building was the work of the Manchester architect Thomas Butterworth, jointly commissioned by two companies, the Lancashire-Yorkshire Railway and the Great Northern. Butterworth employed a version of the Palladian style. Originating in Venice in the 16th century, it had in turn been inspired by the buildings of ancient Greece and the Roman Empire.
It's classical architecture, isn't it? It's very grand, it has all those columns. It has the coat of arms above the portico.
When first built, there were rose motifs above the entrance, painted red on the side going towards Lancashire and white on the side pointing further into Yorkshire. Considering this building opened in 1855, it's wearing wonderfully well. And there's a reason why it's proven to be as tough as it is beautiful. It's built from hard-wearing millstone grit sandstone, which outcrops locally. It really is Yorkshire through and through.
And it was this sandstone that was used to build the town hall, the peace hall and the market.
And it was a landmark event for this sandstone building, Halifax Town Hall, which placed unique demands on the town's railway station.
Probably the busiest day the station ever witnessed was the 4th of August 1863, when the Prince of Wales, later to be King Edward VII, arrived at Halifax Station to perform the official opening of the Halifax Town Hall.
The Illustrated London News reported that the welcoming party, which included an artillery salute, initially greeted the wrong train. But that didn't seem to spoil the day.
The Lancashire-Yorkshire Railway handled 358 trains over the weekend, and it's estimated that 60,000 people were brought to Halifax just to come and see the visit of the Prince of Wales.
Railways boomed in mid-Victorian Britain, with eager travellers crowding platforms. By 1870, the people of Britain were making 423 million rail journeys a year. Stations like Halifax had to adapt to cope with the public's demand for train travel.
As passenger traffic expanded, they needed more platforms, so they had to build out from the present station, and instead of being the station entrance, this merely became a platform with a shed above it to protect passengers from the weather.
Inevitably, the number of coal-powered steam engines, like this one, passing through the station had an impact on the building, leaving it soot-stained and dulling its original grandeur. However, restoration came when a new National Children's Museum opened in Halifax in 1992, because this fine Victorian building was part of the project. The result is a building to delight enthusiasts of both Victorian railway history and architecture too.
I love the station as it is now. Its original splendour has been exposed, and it reflects the importance of Halifax as it was in the 19th century, and indeed as it still is today.
Halifax in West Yorkshire is a town with sumptuous railway architecture and a crucial industrial heritage which takes us beneath these trees to explore these specially designed coal bunkers carved into the landscape in the 19th century.
The industrialists of the time wanted to expand production and make more profit, and to do this they needed to have bigger boilers, bigger manufacturing processes, and that required more coal, and more coal meant better transport and better access to it.
The railways delivered that coal to Halifax from the Yorkshire collieries. But they needed somewhere for trains to deposit it quickly and efficiently. That's why these specialist containers, known as coal drops, became operational in the late 19th century.
These coal drops were built because there was a need for them. The volume of coal required demanded that there was a better delivery system. And they laid many sidings, of which the three nearest to the coal drops had open gaps between the sleepers so that the wagons could be shunted over them, the bottom lever released, and the coal would just shutter out and into the chutes below.
The coal drops here in Halifax were used for the last time in 1966. But unlike those constructed in other Yorkshire towns, they're still here.
The interesting thing about these coal jobs is that they still exist. The reason being that they're in a position where there's never been any need for any redevelopment.
So we should count ourselves lucky to still have them. These coal drops connect us to the railway history of Halifax. And though hidden away, they're an absorbing part of this town's great and enduring industrial legacy. "13 miles away in Leeds, I have one final stop on my mission to uncover the city's unsung role in railway history. It's a quest that brings me right up to the present day. Just east of the city, Neville Hill Depot may look unassuming, but it plays an absolutely vital role for railways today and has done for 120 years. Here by night, teams maintain the rolling stock which serves the lines from Leeds all over the north of England. Depot manager Peter Cooling is taking me on a rare tour of this very special place.
OK, Tim, we need our PPE when we're going into the shed, so bunk caps on.
Great.
And we're going in here.
Oh, very exciting. Oh, wow.
Here we are, Tim. This is part of the 1899 steam shed.
This is extraordinary. I mean, you're still using it today.
Still using it today, yes.
The site was redeveloped in the 1970s to service high-speed trains, but they're not the only railway vehicles to occupy this lovely old steam shed.
You guys are doing a huge sort of range of work here on site, aren't you, for lots of different classes of train?
Yes, we have at least 9 different fleets that come through here every night.
That's extraordinary. So what actually happens in this shed?
Just about everything happens in this shed. In here at the moment, we've got the Class 225 fleet. We're doing the full maintenance on this train. We've got the brake pads to examine, the wheels, the tyres, the general underframe of the vehicle to make sure it's safe. We have to do that every day. So if your car gets an MOT once every year, our trains get an MOT around about every 10 days.
It's quite remarkable to imagine the hundreds of thousands of vehicles and centuries of railway history that have passed through here.
Well, these have been coming here since, what, the 1980s, but you've been servicing engines and locomotives here at Neville Hill since, what, far beyond that? What features can I see now that are actually original?
Most of the walls in this area of the depot are the original 1899 building. There is brickwork behind me that is original, and the arch just to my left is original. And in this shed, there were turntables with tracks radiating from it, which are all gone now, unfortunately, but there were 2 turntables in the space that we stand in today.
The huge turntables were vital to manoeuvre the heavy locos into place for repair, then get them back out onto the line. It's rare to find them in operation. Fortunately, outside the shed, Peter has something of a surprise for me.
I can see the boys now just turned up looking like they're ready to kind of operate the turntable. So with 08690 on it, can we see it actually?
We can indeed. You ready?
Let's go, go on.
Let's go.
Now, this is electrically powered now, right?
It is indeed.
They're being lazy. They're not doing it by hand.
No, the hand one's there just in case we get a power cut. Hopefully we don't see that very often.
This turntable is one of the last in existence at an active depot, so it's a real joy to watch it in motion.
You don't think about turntables as still being critical to the success of modern passenger trains out there.
When the high-speed train came, it's only got one driving position.
Yeah.
So if you take it off one end and you need it on the other end, you need to be able to turn it through 180 degrees and put it back to the other end of the train. This turntable gives us that facility.
As you can see, it is an adrenaline sport for many of them. And it almost turned it around now, so almost the race is on.
Yeah, it's
the last
very, very
final
close.
Few seconds going into position right now. A thrill ride like no other.
But Peter has saved the best bit of the tour until last. This is the original steam shed that has gone more or less unchanged for over 100 years.
It feels very old, and the smell of the kind of oil and the grease, and it feels so evocative of the steam era.
I think we're probably standing in my favourite part of the depot. This is where the really heavy stuff gets done. This is an area where the high-speed trains would come into, where we change the engines, we change the cooler groups, we change the bogies, we change wheel sets in here. And behind you can see a high-speed train engine complete with its alternator that has just come out of a power car.
Wow.
It's good engineering work, and I like that.
From Murray's Round Foundry via the Middleton Railway, Neville Hill is the modern evolution of over 200 years of Leeds locomotive history. Peter has retired twice, but just can't seem to stay away.
What brings you back to Neville Hill?
It's a fantastic depot, and it's more about the people. There are a few employees here where their fathers have worked here, and their sons work here or their daughters work here. So there's a lot of people that have got generations at Neville Hill.
It's that personal passion for the railways that so often keeps them alive. From the day-to-day maintenance of our modern-day engines to the loving care of a heritage line. And to find so much of that passion here in Leeds is a real joy.
It's been an absolute delight to explore just how many railway firsts this city has to its name. And I'll tell you what, I reckon that Leeds deserves to be far better known for them.